Hey there. Welcome everyone to Movement Yoga Flow. My name is Mark Cormier. I'll be practicing with Kathy Cormier today. If you'd like to focus on anything, a particular part of the body, a particular shape in the yoga practice, feeling free to put that in the comment section. Otherwise, we can get going. Are you ready to go, Kath? Awesome. Why don't you come to the mat and we'll begin our practice. How are you feeling today?
I'm feeling good, thank you. Good morning, everybody.
Excellent. Anything you'd like to focus on in particular?
Back of the shoulders, back of the heart.
Back of the heart, okay. Excellent. All right. Well, let's start with our hands on our hips, shifting our weight from side to side, a little side to side march here. Starting to wake up our feet, starting to wake up our legs. And then staying grounded through the feet as we just rock our body weight from side to side. And then finding your center vis-a-vis left to right, side to side. Now rocking your body weight heel toe, and I'll invite you to lift the heels and lift the toes. A little bit of a balance challenge here, keeping the knees a little bit soft. And then staying grounded through the heels, grounded through the toes as we rock it front to back. And then finding your center of balance vis-a-vis front to back. From here, choosing either to keep the feet wide or challenging your balance as you narrow your stance. The narrower as you go, the big toes touch, heels slightly apart. From your feet, finding your legs. From your legs, finding your spine. Relax shoulders long through all sides of the neck. I'll invite you to bring the tips of your index fingers to the top of your jaw. And then inviting the jaw to move in and up. Notice how that lengthens the back of the neck. Keeping that length in the back of the neck, let's bring hands to the heart with a soft tuck of the chin. Beginning our practice this morning, watching as our breath flows in. And watching as our breath flows out. Arriving here on our yoga mats, ready for a morning yoga practice. From a place of just watching your breath, I'll invite you to shape your breath as you find a long, slow breath in, followed by an equally long, smooth breath out. As you breathe in, I'll invite you to bring the air to the top of your chest, the base of your belly, filling up each side waist, filling up both front and back planes of your body. As you breathe out, I'll encourage you to engage your abdominals as you draw the low belly in and up, concurrently lifting the kidneys in and up, squeezing a little more air out, more importantly providing structural support for our spine as we move through these shapes and sequences. To this deeper, fuller breath, moving towards a go-to breath in many flow practices, the Ujjayi breath, the victorious breath, slightly constricting the base of your throat, adding a slight sound and feel to your breath. And as we flow through our practice this morning, letting the sound and feel of your breath be a focus for your practice, the sound of which is often compared to the sound of the ocean as the waves wash in and as the waves wash out. Keeping this, bringing the tip of the tongue to the hard palate just behind the teeth, finding the tongue loop. Keeping this tongue loop throughout the practice, keeping our jaws relaxed and connecting front and back planes of our bodies. And finally, with your lips closed, adding a slight smile to your face, opening up the front of your throat so your breath has lots of room to circulate, refresh, and revitalize. Keeping all this, lifting the chin, hands by your side. Working arms and shoulders. I'll invite you to bring the arms out to the side and then overhead. Exhaling, arms back down. 2 more times. Inhaling, arms up. Exhaling, arms down. As we work the exercise, notice the natural rhythm of the shoulders. As the arms elevate, the shoulders elevate. As the arms descend, the shoulders descend. Half sun salutation. Inhaling, arms out to the side and then overhead. On the exhale, leading with the heart as you fold. Take a breath to arc the back. Hands can cap the knees. On the exhale, folding again. Hands can catch the back of the shins as you round the spine and traction yourself deeper. Inhaling, hinging at the hips, leading with the back of the heart, arms out to the side and then overhead. Exhaling, standing tall. 2 more times like this. Inhaling, arms up. On the exhale, swan diving over. Take a breath to arc the back as we lift chin and tail. On the exhale, tucking chin and tail as we stretch out our back, rounding the spine. Inhaling, hinging at the hips, arms out to the side and then overhead. Exhaling, standing tall. 1 more time. Inhaling up. Exhaling over. Take a breath to find length as we arc. Exhaling, keeping that length as we arch. Inhaling, riding the breath up, arms out to the side and then overhead. Exhaling, standing tall. I'll ask you to go sideways calf. At home, stay just as you are. Sun salutation A. Inhaling, arms out to the side and then overhead. On the exhale, finding your forward fold. Take a breath to arc the back. On the exhale, arching the spine and then grounding down through the hands. And I won't cue vinyasa. I'll invite you just to find your down dog and holding that for 3 or 4 long, slow breaths. As we hold this down dog, I'll invite you to walk your dog as you bend one leg deeply and then the other, stretching it out, seeing how your body feels this morning. What feels tight? What feels right? What feels somewhere in between? From this place of movement, moving back towards relative stillness, long arms, long legs, long spine, deep full breath. Despite the lack of overt movement, you're still breathing, your mind's still moving, your heart's still beating. And by finding that focus on your breath, finding a little more space between each thought, each breath, each beat of the heart, and breathing into that space. On the tail end of an exhalation, bending the knees ever so slightly as you lift the tailbone just a little bit higher, more space in that low back, and then looking between the hands as you mindfully make your way to the front of your mat. Take a breath to find length when you arrive. On the exhale, folding again. Inhaling, hinging at the hips, arms out to the side and then overhead. On the exhale, standing tall. Second one, just like the first, this time I'll cue vinyasa. Inhaling, arms out to the side and then overhead. On the exhale, finding your forward fold. Take a breath to arc the back. On the exhale, arching the spine as we fold again, and then grounding down through the hands. This time I'll cue Chaturanga, yoga push-up. Feel free to use the knees or not. From yoga push-up, feel free to use the knees or not as you find either a cobra or lifting the hips up for your up dog, and then either using the knees or not as you stretch it on back, finding your down dog. Again, I'll invite you to add movement to your down dog, just stretching it out without compromising the shoulders, maybe adding a little swing, a little sway of the shoulders. Starting to focus your attention on that back heart, that place where the thoracic spine meets the cervical spine, and breathing into that place. From a place of movement, moving back towards stillness. Long arms, long legs, long spine, deep full breath. Tail end of a breath, bending the knees ever so slightly as you lift the tailbone just a little bit higher. More space in the low back. And then looking between the hands as you mindfully make your way to the front of your mat. Take a breath to find length when you arrive. On the exhale, folding again. Inhaling, riding the breath up, arms out to the side and then overhead. Exhaling, standing tall. Sun salutation B. We'll do 1. Flow style. Inhaling into our chair, knees over toes, hands overhead. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up, a little back bend at the top. On the exhale, a big swan dive over. Take a breath to arc the back. On the exhale, arching the spine as you ground on down and either finding your down dog and holding or cycling through vinyasa as you find chaturanga. Feel free to use those knees or not. Inhaling into your up dog or cobra and then exhaling back to your down dog. From down dog, flow style. Big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Right leg high to the sky, high on the left toes as we stretch out Achilles tendon and calf. And then looking between the hands as we bring that right foot through, landing it lightly as we spin the back heel down, arms out to the side and then overhead. Inhaling. And then on the exhale, back to low lunge as we spin that back heel up. And then back to down dog as you will, either cycling through vinyasa or stretching straight back, yogi's choice. From down dog, second side. Big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Left leg high to the sky, high on the right toes. Looking between the hands, bringing that left foot through. Spinning the back heel down, arms out to the side and then overhead, warrior one. And then riding the breath back down to low lunge. And from low lunge, back to down dog as you will. And again, take your time, find your flow, follow your breath. And again, as we hold this down dog, either holding it in stillness and seeing what comes up, or stirring it up as you walk your dog, inducing sensation. And whether you hold it in stillness or add movement, breathing into whatever sensation you feel, using our breath as a metaphor for our awareness. Breathing into those calves, Achilles tendon, back of thighs, low back, shoulders, back heart. And then from a place of movement, moving back towards stillness. Long arms, long legs, long spine, deep full breath. And then on the tail end of a breath, bending the knees ever so slightly as you lift the tailbone just a little bit higher, more space in your low back. And then looking between your hands as you mindfully make your way front. Take a breath to find length. On the exhale, folding again. On the inhale, stay low. We'll come back to our chair. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up, a little back bend at the top. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll ask you to face camera as you bring hands to your heart. Coming back to that internal focus, watching as our breath flows in. And watching as our breath flows out. Lifting the chin tall through the crown, hands by our side. I'll invite you to bring hands to hips as we either step or jump our feet hip width apart. Working with our fire breath, short, sharp exhalations out through the nose as we inhale, two arms in front. On the exhale, bending the knees as we cast the hands back. We'll do 8. More to go. Last one. And then back to center. And either stepping or jumping your feet on in. I'll ask you to go sideways, Kathy. Sun salutation C. Inhaling into our chair. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up. On the exhale, a big swan dive over. Take a breath to find length as you arc the back. Yeah, really dip back heart. On the exhale, rounding the spine as you puff out back heart. And then grounding on down and making your way back to down dog as you will. Either cycling through vinyasa or stretching straight back. Yogi's choice. Yeah, take your time. Find your flow. Follow your breath. So let's add a hip opener to our three-legged dog. Big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Right leg high to the sky for the three-legged dog. Keeping that right shoulder just as it is, twisting from the torso, lifted leg straight as you stack the hips. Now bending that lifted leg any amount, opening up that hip. Now I invite you to pitch that knee a little bit higher. There you go, feel the stretch. And then sweeping that right foot through, spinning the back heel down, arms out to the side, and then overhead for your Warrior One. In Warrior One, I'll invite you to bring hands back to your hips. And if you're as long as you're going to go, you'll stay right there. Otherwise, shifting weight onto the front foot as you take that back foot a little farther back. So it looks like you're pretty much where you're going to go. With your hands on your hips, steering your hips forward, back hip front, front hip back. We can bring our hands onto our shoulders, relaxing our shoulders and squaring our heart front. Now finding a clasp of the fingers behind the head, pressing the head into the hands, open heart, open throat, elbows wide to the side, and breathing into that shape. Keeping that sense of expansion across front heart and base of throat, I'll invite you to stretch those hands high to the sky. Pulling silk thread, straightening the front leg without locking the knee, inhaling as we gather up the energy. On the exhale, cactus arms as we offer that energy out 6 times. Inhale and exhale. Inhale and exhale. We're halfway done. Breathing in, breathing out. Last 2. Breathing in, breathing out. Last 1. Breathing in, breathing out, and holding cactus arms. The elbows move back. The hands come with. I'll invite you to ripple those fingers, keeping our hands supple. From here, I'll invite you to bring hands back to the hips. Let's play with the balance challenge, our Warrior 3. As we spin the back heel up, either one big step or a couple of smaller steps as we bring that back foot in. Kathy's adjusting herself for the frame at home. You don't have to do anything. And then starting to balance on that right foot. I'll invite you to bring your mind to that place between the big toe and second toe, grounding down right there, as you lift that back leg any amount. Working arm variations as we stretch hands back. Shoulders stretch away from the ears. Now stretching arms out to the side, wide across the front of the heart. Now sweeping the hands in front, the palms face in as if you're holding a large glass ball. And then think about lifting the face to look through that ball. And again, keep grounding down between big and second toe. Hands in front, find the heart. Heart hands become hip hands. Taking a big step back as we come back to Warrior One prep. So feel free to set yourself up, finding the length of stance that's right for you. With our hands on our hips, we're going to turn Warrior One hips into Warrior Two hips as we steer the hips sideways. And again, finding an arrangement that works for your feet. You want to make sure your knees are happy. And then finding one long arm, looking out over those front fingers with a steady yet relaxed gaze. In our Warrior Two, I'll invite you to paint rainbows. Again, we're pulling silk threads here. Inhaling, we don't want to rip those threads. Exhaling back to Warrior Two. 6 times. Breathing in and breathing out. Inhale and exhale. We're halfway done. Breathing in, breathing out. Last 2. Breathing in, breathing out. Last 1. Breathing in and holding. Reaching up higher, reaching down further. Finding more space between each rib with every breath. Breathing into that space. And then I'll invite you to spread those fingers wide as we find more space in our hands. And breathing into that space. Again, using our breath as a metaphor for our awareness. Turning the reverse warrior back into Warrior Two. Now finding a rainbow warrior. A clasp of the fingers behind the back. Feel free to use a strap or a towel or a piece of cloth. Shoulder blades back and down onto rib shelf initially. Open heart, open throat. Make sure you don't knock down the Christmas tree. As you take a forward fold inside the front leg. And then in the forward fold, I'll invite you to do a little neck check as you gently rock your head side to side. And the other thing I'll invite you to do is disengaging shoulders from rib shelf and just letting them slide down towards the floor as we get a nice stretch in our upper back in that back heart region. In our rainbow warrior, I'll suggest a strong tuck of the chin before you bring it on up. Keeping that tuck as you bring it on up, and then coming back to our warrior two. Transitioning to triangle, thumb and forefinger find crease of hip and base of rib. Want to deepen that crease and lengthen those ribs. And then grounding bottom hand down, either on shin, thumb in line with the shin bone to keep that bottom shoulder open, or you might grab a brick or two and bring them outside the calf. If you choose to use bricks, feeling that physical connection between the outside of the calf and the brick. Using that top hand to rotate your ribs, using that top hand to open up that shoulder, and then stretching that hand high to the sky for the triangle. As we hold the triangle, breathing into your center, it's a big ball of energy. You might think about it 3 fingers below the navel, but also 3 fingers below back navel, 3 fingers below side navel or side navels, and breathing into that place, connecting with the center of yourself. As you breathe out from that center, connecting with the pulsation of the breath, as you find more length through both arms, both legs, both ends of the spine, making yourself bigger in space from the inside out. Moving towards our second balance challenge, the half moon. Top hand finds the hip, softening the front knee, either one big step or a couple of steps in. And Kathy's going to adjust herself in the frame at home. You don't need to do that. Right hand off to the right. And take your time, feel free to use appropriate height. Lifting back leg any amount. Using that top hand to rotate the ribs, opening up shoulder, and then stretching hand high to the sky. As we hold the shape with every breath in, as the diaphragm stretches down towards the navel, gathering energy in the center of yourself. Every time you breathe out, as the diaphragm relaxes and domes up to the heart on that impetus, sending energy out into space from that center. Let's land it easily. Hand finds the hip, back foot comes down in a short stance. Shifting the weight into the feet, no big deal. Hands find the hips as you shift weight onto the front foot and lengthen your stance, coming back to your warrior two. And from warrior two, I'll suggest a big windmill of the arms as you stretch out your shoulders, making your way to low lunge. And from low lunge, back to down dog, as you will, either cycling through vinyasa or stretching straight back, your choice. Deep full breaths. So let's do a little interlude before we do our second side. So I'll invite you to find a plank pose and holding that for 3 or 4 long, slow breaths. As we hold the plank, feeling that connection between your head, your hips, and your heels. Without locking the knee, feeling a nice openness in the back of the knee as the calves lift up to the sky. Feeling a nice stretch in your Achilles tendon as you stretch those heels towards back wall. Shoulders super, super engaged. And then on the tail end of an exhalation, drawing the navel to spine as you lift the hips high, back to down dog. Are you ready for a second side?
Sure.
All right. Big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Left leg high to the sky, high on the right toes. Keeping that left shoulder just as it is, twisting from the torso, lifted leg straight as you stack your hips. Now bending that lifted leg, opening up that hip. Now pitching that knee just a little bit higher, and then sweeping that left foot through, spinning the back heel down, finding your warrior one, arms out to the side, and then overhead. In warrior one, I'll invite you to bring hands back to the hips. If you're already, as long as you're going to go, you'll stay right there. Otherwise, shifting weight onto the front foot as you lengthen your stance for more stretch in your legs. With our hands on our hips, we can steer our hips front, front hip back, back hip front. Now bringing hands onto your shoulders, relaxing your shoulders and squaring your heart front. Now switching the clasp of the fingers behind the back, pressing the head into the hands, open heart, open throat, elbows wide to the side, and holding that shape for 1 or 2 breaths. Just enjoying that openness in heart and throat chakra. You might also think about back heart chakra and breathing into that place. And then keeping that sense of openness in heart and throat chakras, stretching those hands high to the sky. From here, pulling silk threads. We don't want to rip the threads. Breathing in. Breathing out, cactus arms. 6 times. Breathing in. And breathing out. Breathing in. Breathing out. We're halfway done. Breathing in. Breathing out. Last 2. Breathing in. Breathing out. Last 1. Breathing in. Breathing out and holding cactus arms. The elbows move back, the hands come with, rippling those fingers, keeping our hands supple. Moving towards the Warrior 3 Balance Challenge. Take your time, hands find the hips. Either one big step or a series of steps in. And Kathy's going to adjust herself for the frame. At home, you don't have to do this. And then starting to balance on that front foot any amount as the back foot gets light. As we hold the shape, I'll invite you to focus on that place between the big and second toe. And then pitching the body forward, lengthening through the legs any amount. Working our arm variations. We can stretch hands back as the shoulders stretch away from the ears. And then stretching hands wide. You might take out the Christmas tree on this one. As we find space across the front of the heart. And also think about back heart and breathing into that. And then sweeping those hands front. Hands face in as if you're holding a large glass ball. And think about lifting the face to look through that ball. Hands in front, find the heart. Hard hands become hip hands. Landing that back foot lightly as we come back to our Warrior 1 with hands on our hips. And then using our hands to turn Warrior 1 hips into Warrior 2 hips as we steer the hips sideways. And find one long arm. You might also kick the back foot in to narrow your stance, vis-a-vis side to side. As we hold Warrior 2, looking out over those front fingers with a steady yet relaxed gaze. And that's a good takeaway. Anyone's giving you any problems today? Give them that gaze.
No pointing.
No pointing, no aggression, but a steady yet relaxed. So both sides equally important. From here, painting rainbows, breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in and breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. We're halfway done. Breathing in, breathing out. Last 2, breathing in, breathing out. Last 1, breathing in and holding that reverse warrior. Maybe the next time.
I'm behind. You're cueing. I was like a half breath behind the whole time.
You're what?
I was a half breath behind the whole time.
That's all good. So we're going to hold the shape. You want to reach up higher. You want to reach further. Finding more space between each rib. And let those fingers mimic those ribs as you spread those fingers wide. Finding more space in your hand. Notice how when we open up the hand, it actually opens up the shoulder. When we open up the shoulders, we open up back heart. Turning our reverse warrior back into Warrior 2. Now finding your rainbow warrior, switching the clasp of the fingers behind the head, shoulder blades back and down initially, and then leading with the heart as you take that deep forward fold inside the front leg. Take your time. Once we're in the forward fold, letting the shoulders leave rib shelf as they slide down towards the floor, finding more space in back heart. And then doing a little gentle rock, a little gentle sway, just inviting any tension in your neck and shoulders, and also back heart, to drain down through the crown of the head into the earth. From here, a strong tuck of the chin as we bring it on up, keeping that tuck. Lifting the chin tall through the crown as we come back to our warrior two, one long arm. Again, looking out over those front fingers with that steady yet relaxed gaze. From here, moving towards our triangle, thumb and forefinger find crease of hip and base of rib. Want to deepen that crease and lengthen those ribs. And then grounding that bottom hand down, you could use the shin, thumb in line with the shin bone to open up that bottom shoulder. Or if you have a yoga elf, or if your bricks are close by, you can make yourself a little structure outside the calf. If you do make that structure, feeling a physical connection, that'll give you a little bit more sense of support, so we can open up a little bit more. Using that top hand, now feel free to adjust those bricks. Using that top hand to rotate those ribs. Using that top hand to open up that shoulder. And then stretching that hand high to the sky. Again, as we hold the shape, breathing into our center, a big ball of energy. It's where everything connects. You can even see it, I don't know if you can see the City Lights logo here. We've got a torso and two arms, so there's no legs on that one, but the center is somewhere where all the extremities connect in. So we won't define it too specifically, so just a big ball of energy. And from that center, finding more space in the shape from the inside out. From here, moving towards our second balance challenge, the half moon, hand finds the hip, softening the front knee, either one big step or a series of smaller steps in. And take your time, set yourself up in the frame. No rush at all. Move towards our balance shapes with careful deliberation. Usually it works out better than when we rush into the shape. From here, rotating ribs, opening up shoulder, and stretching hand high. Having said that, sometimes if we move too cautiously, sometimes our balance becomes compromised because we get too in our heads and not letting our bodies, not feeling our bodies. Again, as we hold the shape, breathing into that center. And then from that center, connecting with the periphery of the room. As we hold the shape, still finding those long, smooth breaths in. Equally long, smooth breaths out. I'll invite you to come down easily. Hand finds the hip. We can land a short stance, no big deal. Shifting the weight into the feet as hands find the hips. And then shifting weight onto that front foot. Kathy's going to adjust herself in the frame, I believe. As you come back to your warrior two. One long arm, looking out over those front fingers with that mixture of effort and ease. And then from here, a big windmill of the arms as you find your low lunge. Spinning that back heel up. And from low lunge, back to down dog as you will. Welcome, John. Welcome, Barry. And whatever shape you're in, you could also find a child's pose, Kathy, if you'd like. Otherwise, hold your down dog. Just making sure you're working a good balance between your effort and your ease. Whether you're in down dog or child's pose, I'll invite you to bring your breath to the back plane of your body, using your breath to find a little more freedom, a little more space in your spine. Feeling free to stay wherever you are, and that's the beauty of a home practice. From down dog, in the context of this room, tail end of her breath, bending the knees ever so slightly as you lift the tailbone just a little bit higher, and then looking between the hands as you either step or maybe take that jump front. Take a breath to find length when you arrive. On the exhale, folding again. On the inhale, stay low, finding your chair pose, knees over toes, hands overhead. Exhaling, taking it lower. Inhaling, rising on up. On the exhale, neutral spine. I'll ask you to face camera as you bring hands to heart, Kathy. And you can do this at home. This time, as we've had hands at heart, I'll invite you to add an isometric engagement as we press the palms together, elbows wide, a tuck of the tail, a tuck of the chin, connecting with the strength of your center. And then lifting the chin, tall through the crown, hands by your side. Hands find the hips as we either step or jump our feet hip width apart. Coming back to that fire breath, short, sharp exhalations out through our nose as we inhale, arms up to one side. On the exhale, passing the hands through center and other side. Let's do 8. Couple more each way. One more each side. And then back up, and either stepping or jumping it back in. I'll ask you to go sideways, Kathy. Sun Sal D. Inhaling into your chair. Knees over toes, hands overhead. Exhaling, taking it lower. On the inhale, rising on up. On the exhale, a big swan dive over. Take your time. I tend to get excited with my cueing, so I'm going to speed it up a little bit. Take a breath to find length. On the exhale, folding again and grounding on down and making your way back to down dog as you will. Again, either stretching straight back or cycling through vinyasa. Wherever you choose to work, breathing and watching that breath and enjoying that reflection upon your breath. So let's repeat that same hip opener and let's add, we're going to go to a swan sequence here. We'll work that hip a little bit with some thigh bone rotations. So big toes touch, heels slightly apart. Right leg high to the sky, high on the left toes. Keeping that right shoulder anchored, twisting from the torso, lifted leg straight. Now bending that top leg. And then I'll invite you to circle the thigh bone in the hip socket for 3 and 2 and 1. Now taking those circles the other way. 3 and 2 and 1. And then pitching that knee higher. We're moving towards a swan here. And then sweeping that right knee towards right elbow, keeping the knee joint closed. Walking the left foot back as you descend your hips at an even rate down towards the floor. When you can't walk that foot back anymore, unfurling the foot, I'll invite you to have it. Everything in one straight line here for equal stress on both sides of the ankle. From here, finding the tips of 10 fingers as you feel your shoulder blades move back and down onto rib shelf. So really open heart, open throat, this place here. Look at me for a sec. This place here, So what's that called? The puffy pigeon chest. So very proud, you're puffing it up, shoulder blades back and down. You want to try to keep that puff as long as you can as you spider those fingers front, laying your heart down as we put the swan into nap mode here. When you can't go any further, letting everything relax as the forehead heavies towards or onto the floor. As we hold the napping swan, I'll invite you to put your mind in your hips. They're not going to move, but stretching your hips away from the midpoint as you find a little more space between the hips and breathing into that space. And it's if it's not right there, it's close to that big ball of energy in the center of yourself. So from here, let's add swan twist as we walk our hands back in. I'll invite you to find a bent arm on the bent knee side of things, so a perpendicular arm. Other hand goes out to the side. There's some Christmas presents. I'm going to clear the Christmas presents. So you'll find an outrigger hand over here. You'll pull back with that bent arm, and as we find a little bit of a twist, feeling a stretch in the low back. Any amount. Make sure it feels good. Now you'll come back to center. We'll find that other bent arm, that other outrigger hand. And then pulling back with that forearm as we stretch out the low back. Any amount. And again, whatever sensation you're feeling, breathing into that sensation, using our breath as a vehicle for our awareness. Now coming back center, we're going to fly the swan. Strong abdominal engagement as we draw the pelvic floor up towards the navel, navel up towards the heart, sweeping the hands out to the side and then overhead. As we hold the shape, I'll invite you to rotate the wrists a couple of times one way, a couple of times the other, maybe sprinkling those fingers, adding a little charm to the situation. And then from this place, spinning the palms out, grounding down through the palms, keeping the knee joint closed, any amount, as we come back to our three-legged dog, actually not any amount, keeping it closed a lot, and then very carefully opening up that knee as we invite more prana, more vitality into that knee joint. And take your time here. Make sure our knees stay super, super happy. They do a lot for us, and we want to keep them happy. And then grounding down through that foot, holding your down dog, feeling free to walk the dog, feeling free to cycle through vinyasa, really up to you, depending on your energy level, where you want to go this morning. That's the beauty of a flow practice, and that's the beauty of a home practice, is you can do a lot of things free form, not always listening to the dictates of your yoga cure, which would be me. So let's move towards that swan sequence on our second side, but let's preface it with a little bit of an interlude, as we come back to our plank pose and holding that for 3 or 4 long, slow breaths. Feeling that connection between your head, your hips, and your heels without locking the knee. Feeling a nice openness in the back of the knee as the calves lift up to the sky. Feeling a nice stretch in your Achilles tendon as you stretch those heels back. Shoulders stay super engaged here. Yeah, Kathy's rocking her plank a little bit, which is a beautiful thing to see. I love micro movement within these bigger shapes. Kind of a, in the old days, you'd have the radio, which would have the big knob, which would tune in the station, and then you have a smaller knob. So once you're on the station, you can start to refine the frequency. And then from our plank, I'll invite you to draw navel to spine as you lift the hips high, finding your down dog. Now we'll find that three-legged dog, big toes touch, heels slightly apart, left leg high to the sky, high on the right toes. Keeping that left shoulder just as it is, lifted leg straight as we stack the hips. Now bending that lifted leg any amount, and we'll do those thigh bone circles for 3 and 2 and 1. We'll take those circles the other way for 3 and 2 and 1. And then pitching that knee a little higher, keeping the knee joint closed as we bring that left knee to left wrist. Walking the right foot back, take your time, there's no rush, as you settle the hips. And then unfurling the foot, everything stays in one line here. Yeah, equal stress on both sides of the ankle. Beautiful, we get a nice stretch where the foot and the ankle connect. It's also a little ticklish maybe. Maybe not.
What?
I was giving you a...
Yes,
all right.
probably so.
Okay.
You are correct, I am ticklish.
From here, tips of 10 fingers. You want to find our... the other name for the swan is the pigeon. You see those pigeons, they strut around very proudly, just feeling your pigeon puff. And then keeping that puff as long as you can as you spider those fingers front, laying the heart down. So take your time. Feel the stretch in your back, inch by inch, step by step. Remember the old Three Stooges episode? Maybe not.
I was thinking of Itsy Bitsy Spider.
Itsy Bitsy Spider, there you go. And then letting everything relax. As we hold the shape, putting your mind in your hips, they're not going to move, but just stretching the hips away from the midpoint as you find more space in that place. In the center of yourself. And breathing into that space. And again, Kathy's chosen to add a little micro movement, a little rock. Just fine-tuning the shape. Finding her frequency. From here, let's move towards a swan twist each way. So walking or spidering those fingers back in. Finding a perpendicular form on the bent knee side of thing. Outrigger hand. And then pulling back with that form any amount. As we traction our low back, breathing into that space. Now coming back center, finding that other perpendicular form. Other outrigger hand, and pulling back with that form as we stretch up low back. Breathing into the stretch. Now coming back center. Take your time. Finding the tips of 10 fingers as we puff that pigeon again. And then strong, strong center engagement. The pelvic floor lifts up towards the navel. Navel lifts up to the heart as we sweep those hands out to the side. And then high to the sky. As we hold the shape, adding a little charm as we circle the wrists both ways, A little sprinkling of the fingers. And then I'll invite you to spin those palms out. Yeah, Kathy likes to turn the hands back, which is an awesome stretch in the front of the wrist. And now we're going to move towards our down dog as we spin those fingers front. And then tucking the toes, keeping that knee joint closed. And then once you're in your three-legged dog, carefully opening up that knee as we invite more prana, more life force into the knee joint. And we'll be careful with our knees. And then when you're ready, grounding on down, finding your down dog, and either holding your down dog as you walk it from side to side, or cycling through vinyasa, yogi's choice. And where you are this morning, do you have excess energy? Are you searching for energy? If you have excess energy, I'd probably not do vinyasa. If we're searching for energy, I'd suggest doing vinyasa. As you start to rev yourself up. So people are different in the mornings. From down dog, long, smooth breath in. Equally long, smooth breath out. Tail into that breath, bending the knees ever so slightly as you lift the tailbone just a little bit higher. More space in the low back. And then looking between the hands as you either step or take a jump to the front of your mat. Take a breath to find length. On the exhale, folding again. Inhaling, finding your chair. Exhaling, taking it lower. On the inhale, rising on up, a little back bend at the top, the City Hearts logo here. And on the exhale, standing tall. I'll ask you to face camera as you bring hands to heart. This time, intertwining the fingers, keeping the heels of the hands together as we try to pull those fingers apart. Again, a tuck of the chin, a tuck of the tail, connecting with the strength of your center. And then lifting the chin, tall through the crown. We don't have too much time left here. So I want you to find a squat as we jump our feet wide. Angling the feet out, let's rock it into a squat, taking it on down. Bringing elbows to the inner thighs, hands find the heart, and I want you to keep rocking that squat from side to side. Just getting to those hips. And then from here, let's ground the hands on down. Let's come to an all-fours position. Yeah, if it goes sideways here, don't do it all at once. In all-fours position, I'll invite you to stretch your sits bones back to the heels as you stack a pair of soft fists, letting your forehead be heavy on those fists. As we hold this version of the child's pose, gently rocking those hips from side to side. Slowing the breath down. And then from this place, I'll invite you to bring your feet off to one side, finding the top of your mat as you find a long, slow roll down all the way onto your back. Take your time. Slow, 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 laying each vertebrae down as you're laying pearls onto a cushion. Beautiful. When you get down, don't take your time. Full body stretch, low back lifts. And then keeping that sense of space in the low back. As you sweep your hands by your sides, widening your thighs, scooting the head back as you flatten the shoulders. Finding your Shavasana, your final relaxation shape. Initially focusing on the breath as we hold the shape, even letting that focus soften as we bring our senses inward. Pratyahara. And let me dim some of the lights here. We won't be here too long. All right. So I'm going to ring these yoga bells 3 times at home, of course, feeling free to hold your Shavasana as long as you'd like. I'll invite you to move your minds before you move your bodies, bringing your attention back to your breath, watching as it flows in and out, like watching a river as that river flows by. From a place of just watching your breath, I'll invite you to shape your breath as you find a long, slow breath in, followed by a longer, slower breath out, varying that ratio between the inhale and the exhale, finding a more relaxing breath with those longer, slower exhalations. Keeping this, inviting more prana, more vitality into your body as you gently ripple your fingers and toes. Inviting that prana in towards center as you gently circle your wrists and your ankles a couple times each way. Adding a little shimmy of the shoulders, a little shake of the hips, micro movement, connecting with your own innate sense of well-being, whatever feels right and good for you, right here, right now. Supporting the action of the legs as you pressure back into the mat to draw one knee into the heart, the other knee follows. Take your time. Hands catch the shins, using your thighs to massage your low belly as you gently rock the hips front to back, side to side, little circles, whatever feels right and good for you. And then I'll invite you to stretch long through the right arm, rolling onto your side, letting that arm serve as a cushion for your head. Letting your next exhale sigh out through your mouth as you soften your shoulders, relax your jaw, soften the corners of your eyes. And then easily pushing on up, I'll suggest a cross-legged sit. As we sit, grounded down through our sits bones, I'll invite you to bring your hands onto your knees. Pulling back with your hands to settle the shoulders, sitting up a little straighter, a little taller. Bringing our index fingers to the top of the jaw, bringing the jaw in and up as we lengthen through the back of the neck. A soft tuck of the chin, hands come back to the knees. Ending our practice as we started, watching as our breath flows in, and watching as our breath flows out. From this place of breath awareness, I invite you to bring your hands to your hearts and bow as you thank yourselves for practicing yoga, and as we offer our practice out to each other and to the world. The light within us honors and respects the light within you. And in this light, we are one. Namaste.
Namaste.
Thank you at home for practicing
Thank you,
with us.
everyone.
Thank you, Kathy, for practicing with me.
Thank you, Mark.
And it's our joke here. Namaste sounds so much like have a nice day. We'll say have a nice day, and we'll see you real soon. Thank you so much.
Nice day.
Have a nice day.